Hey everyone, this is Martin, and I am inside sitting in front of the fire today because it's cold and rainy outside. It's the first really cold weather of the season, and it's just not fit to be out. So anyway, so if you look back here and you see the tolerances we've got between the walls and the stove, we are within the manufacturer's tolerance on that, both on the side and on the back. So we're good. We went through all last year, set up exactly like this, and we're fine. The stuff doesn't get warm at all. So don't worry about that. So we are up to day number 17, which is going to be cash versus financing when it comes to purchasing your land. And before I get into it, I want to let you know that if you can, go down and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell down below the video here. Switch the notifications to all so you get them all. And then the other thing is that once we got started on this, we decided to stop and write a companion book to the video series. You do not need to buy the book in order to complete the series and get the information on it. It just is a way for me to organize my thoughts a little bit better than what I can on a video, and there's room to take notes and things like that. If you want to get that, it's there's information down in the description below on how you can do that. You can get it through Amazon, or you can get a $3 cheaper version from us directly, because we've got a stack of final edited. They got typos in them, so $3 off if you want the typos, but you got to order them directly from us. Okay, so let's get into this. Cash versus financing. And when I get onto social media, especially, where people love to give advice, whenever anybody asks about purchasing land, an overwhelming majority of the advice that comes into them says cash, 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 pay cash, pay cash, pay cash. Don't get in debt for any reason. And, I understand that, and I can kind of agree with it to a point. And if you can pay cash, and you've got it, and it's not going to deplete your funds, go ahead. I mean, that's the best way to do it. And there are three main reasons, but there are also reasons why financing is not such a bad thing either. And there's three main reasons why you would want to pay cash for something. The first is that when you pay cash, you've removed the debt load on that property. And so you really have lowered the risk of a debt-related loss on it. So, I mean, you don't owe anybody on it. It's bought and paid for. So that's a good thing. When you have that, it's a good thing. And that's one major thing that you've got that you don't have to worry about. The second reason why paying cash is a good thing is there's no ongoing payments. I mean, you don't have to worry about how are you going to keep this thing paid for and come up with the income that you need. It just eliminates a large chunk of income. Probably one of the biggest responsibilities of income that you would have that you don't have to worry about is you don't have a mortgage to pay every month. And the third reason why paying cash is good is because, when you finance something, you do have interest going out every month. And that interest is going to somebody, a bank or a private lender or somewhere, but it's not staying with you. So when you pay cash for something, then automatically that interest that would normally be going to somebody else is staying home in your bank account. So that's a good thing. Those are three of the main reasons why paying cash is good. And all of you will agree with that. I have no doubt about that. On the flip side, is it better to finance? And I'm going to give you some reasons why, to me, financing actually has merit and can be a good thing as well. And it really comes down to a personal choice on what you're most comfortable with. But we have financed a lot of properties on our recreation properties that we've had over the years. All of those were financed. We did end up paying a couple of them off, but all of those were financed. And there are good reasons why that was a good choice for us. So there are also reasons why actually financing property can be a good thing for you. And the first one is kind of the argument about the paying cash and just saving up the cash to do that. Because honestly, it could take literally years or even a lifetime to save up enough cash to be able to go out and just purely pay cash for a piece of property. Not necessarily, but I mean, it's going to take more time. You can just almost count on it's going to take years anyway. to save up that kind of cash, especially if you're starting kind of from zero. And is it worth waiting that long? Because here kind of is what happens. Now, obviously, no one can predict the future of real estate values, but my wife and I have been buying and selling real estate for probably close to 20 years now. And I can tell you that even going through the bursting bubbles of real estate values and the spikes and the crashes and the spikes again, that land values tend to go up over time. If you pick out any 3-year section, they may go down, but over time, they're going to continue to go up. And what I found, if we're just going to use a figure of like $100,000, for example, if you can go out and buy a piece of land today, say 10 acres for $100,000, and you say, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't have the cash for it. So I'm going to go ahead and save up. And when I get that $100,000 saved up, I'm going to buy that piece of land. Well, what will likely happen is that $100,000, it may take you 10 years to save up $100,000 to buy that land. And by the time if it took you 10 years to save that, and that's $10,000 a year. I mean, how many of you save $10,000 a year? So if you decide you're going to wait and save up the money to buy the land, 10 years from now, that $100,000 piece of land may be $150,000 or maybe $200,000. So yes, if you go ahead and decide to finance it today, you're going to have interest to pay on that thing, depending on the interest rate and what kind of a time frame you set to pay it down. It will be different, but you may find that going ahead buying it at the $100,000, financing it out, you may end up paying less than if you'd have waited 10 years for cash and have to pay 50% more for that same piece of land, or even 100% more for that same piece of land. It actually, there's no way to predict it, but I can tell you that over the years, with the property values that we've experienced in the rise of the property values and the inflation and all of that, that mostly it's cheaper to go ahead and buy it and finance it and pay the interest on it until it's paid off than it is to wait and then pay a higher price for it later on down the road. It's an offsetting figure that people don't really think about. But if you're looking at saving up for a year to be able to buy land, then go ahead and do that. But if you're looking at 10 years to save up to buy land for cash, you might just finance it and you find out that 10 years down the road, you actually saved more money by doing that than you did by waiting and paying cash for it. So there's one reason why it might be valuable to go ahead and finance. Another one is a little bit more intangible, as if that one wasn't intangible enough, is a little bit more intangible because it has to do with what is the value of not being on your land. And, if you've got plans and goals to have an orchard, build an orchard or a berry farm, or have some kind of farm to market type of business going on there, or something like that, and you have to put that on hold for 10 years until you can have cash to buy it, then what is the lost revenue value of waiting versus getting started, going ahead and financing, getting started, start building that up, especially if you're planting an orchard or berry bushes or something like that from scratch, where you've got to give them some time to develop before they really start producing income. And this will come down to mostly if you are trying to offset income or figure out how you're going to offset income by paying cash, by not being on the land for all of those years, so you can't start developing that source of income or revenue off of the land. So that's another factor that might come into play. A big reason that I would have for being willing to finance a piece of land versus waiting to pay cash for it, and this all comes down to the waiting to pay cash factor. Okay, but a big reason for me is that when I'm motivated on something, I'm ready to get started on it, and I'm ready to start right now. And I'm not ready to say, okay, I'm going to invest another 10 years of my life doing what I'm doing now in order to reach the point where I can pay cash for it. I'm always going to be in that camp that when I have the idea and the motivation and the dream, I'm ready to get started on it tomorrow, and live with the consequences of having a monthly payment. Now, that's just me, okay? But to me, the value of the peace of mind that comes from me being down here on my piece of land is worth it to me. Okay, it really is worth it. And when you combine it with some of those other reasons why I know that this same piece of property 10 years from now is going to be twice as what I paid for it. I don't have such a problem doing that. One final reason that you might want to, actually, it's not so much a reason to pay to finance as it is to be cautious about paying cash. If your cash purchase depletes your funds, I mean, if you save for 10 years and you get just enough to buy the land and you pay cash for it and it leaves you with nothing left over as a backup to either develop what you need to develop there or to take care of any kind of emergencies that come up or breakdowns, or we had some people that had bought a piece of land from us one time, and they spent all their money on new furniture and stuff that they didn't save any money back for a problem. Okay, and they got into a winter, and it was a cold winter. It froze and broke some of the pipes in the well because they forgot to put heat in the well during the wintertime, and it froze up the pipes to the house, and all of a sudden they were in this crisis mode of not having any water and not knowing when it was going to be thawed back out again, and not having any money to pay for any of it, and it broke their spirit is what it did, and they just moved away, and that was it. They invested all of that time and energy and money into getting it started, but then when they had their first big problem, it overwhelmed them, and they didn't have enough backup left after they'd spent all their money to buy all of the stuff that they were buying to make it their dream property. So that's another reason. So is it better to pay cash? Is it better to finance? Nobody can really answer that question except you. But there's reasons why paying cash is good. There's also reasons why, under certain circumstances, why financing is good. And right now the interest rates are kind of high, so it's tougher to make that decision. But I would still probably end up making that decision myself. If I was starting out, I had enough for a down payment, but I did not have enough to pay full cash outright. I would probably go ahead and pay a down payment, reserve some cash back for emergencies, and go ahead and pay the interest rate, knowing that I'm probably going to stay even, if not slightly ahead, of the inflationary forces on land and appreciation of land over time that generally happens. Now, you can predict that land prices are going to crash. And if you believe that and it's worth waiting for, go ahead and wait for it. The trouble is the crashes happen, then they spike back up again, and they always come back up higher. So that's just my opinion on how it goes, but there's reasons why one is good. There's reasons why the other is good. So anyway, good luck with that. You get to decide, which of the processes you're going to follow. To me, getting started is worth a lot to me. And so if my situation was, in order to get started, I was going to have to finance, I would do that. You have to make your own decision. Okay, so tomorrow we're going to get into details on what it takes to start doing serious research on land. And I know we've touched on little bits and pieces of it already, but tomorrow we're going to get into it a lot deeper. So anyway, until then, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and we'll see you tomorrow. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a like and a share, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button down below and the notification bell. See you next time.